baby. What is up, YouTube boy Millsy? Back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Updates, the show where I update you on the progress of my main decks and decks in my test box. We're rolling through my updates that I did for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. First time I've updated some of these decks since they were built. And today we're talking about a deck that has really taken my heart in a lot of ways. This archetype, Naya Dinos, was actually the first deck I ever built. I took Geshath apart a long time ago, but as soon as I saw Pantlaza, I knew I wanted to give it a shot. So that's what we're talking about today. Pants or Pantlaza, Sun Favorite. A 5-mana 4/4 dino that says whenever Pantlaza or another dinosaur ETBs under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. Discover's kind of an interesting mechanic, right? It's kind of like Cascade, except you can choose to play it for free or put it into your hand, which is at least relevant depending on what you hit at the right time. Obviously, if you play a dino and discover into a protection spell, maybe you want to keep it, right, and use it later. But what I like about Pantlaza is, like the original structure, the original deck was named, we're trying to ramp up. And what's cool is a lot of our dinos end up having a lot more toughness than we can pay for them, which can be really beneficial when we start discovering for a lot. And there's certain of our dinos that when we discover them, we won't hit something no matter what it is. There's a lot of dinos with really fun effects, and the thing I like the most about this deck is it really shows off all these new dinosaurs we got in Lost Caverns of Ixalan and the Commander deck. And that's cool because for a long time, there was a very small pool of dinosaurs to use. We're going to talk about the dinos, especially the new ones. We're talking about how we're going to kind of blink our dinos to try to get that Discover trigger again, or how we're going to cheat them in for cheaper so we can get them those big Discover triggers. And then, of course, getting stuck in. We're going to do what any creature deck does best and get stuck in for damage. Well, talk about dinos. And what I really love about this deck is this time around we get to talk about a lot of new dinos that are entering the fray here that we get to use. Bonehorde Dracosaur is a great one. Flying first strike, and its ability exiles top 2 at the start of our turn. If we exile a land, we get to make a 3/1 dino, and if we exile a non-land, we get a treasure. Bonehorde just allows us to have more cards we have access to and play them, as well as a flying first striker in the air. Earthshaker Dreadmaw is a play on the old Colossal Dreadmaw, the most, everyone's favorite common of all time, the most reprinted. And Earthshaker draw, but just 6/6 for 6, so it's on rate, but when it ETBs, you draw a card for each other dino you control, which could be really great depending on how bored you is. One of the big few that everybody knows got a new printing in March of the Machine, Atali Primal Conqueror. When it ETBs, each player exiles from the top of their library into the exile non-land card, cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. Atali's great for its cost, because you get a bunch of extra things, and then you can potentially get your Discover trigger, and then it can flip over the backside into a big Infect attacker. Galton Mavrin from Arts of the Machines is a 12 toughness for 7 mana, so now we can really get high up on that Discover value for how much mana we spend. And its biggest ability, whenever we attack, we can create a tapped and attacking XX green dino with trample, where X is the greatest power among other creatures we control, meaning we can make more big dinos in combat. Galta Stampede Tyrant's one of our favorites of the new ones, because when it ETBs, you can put any number of creature cards from our hand onto the battlefield. All we need is one of the 2 dinosaurs we have access to in our deck. They can give all of our other creatures haste, and that can turn into a huge play. I love Hulking Raptor. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you had double green. A way to ramp up, play Hulking Raptor on turn 3 or 4 and have 2 extra mana the next turn when you get back around to it. Kogla Nidar from March of the Machine. It's crazy to see how much great stuff March of the Machine had. Kogla is a 7 for 6 mana, but it has 2 abilities. You can either get Trample and Haste on the turn or fight something you don't control. Kogla Nidar is a great body, and it fights really well into most things your opponents could play. Polani's Hatcher is our new haste enabler. We have Redisar Alpha from the original Ixalan, and now we get Polani's Hatcher, just a way to give our other dinos haste and make sure they can get in for damage. Pugnacious Hammerskull, an example of one of the new dinosaurs that we really get a good rate for. It's 3 mana for a 6/6, and then when it attacks, we don't control a dinosaur, we put a stun on it. But what I love about this is it's a great play to get a 6 Discover for a really, really cheap cost. Well, we have some of the new Jurassic World, of course, dinosaurs as well. We'll talk about another one later, but Ravenous Tyrannosaurus, 6/6 for 6. It can devour for 3, so we can sack any number of creatures, and it comes in with that many more counters, meaning it will count for the Discover. And whenever it attacks, it deals damage equal to its power up to one target creature, excess damage dealt to that creature's controller instead. Just a way to just bite through something on attack, and it can be very dangerous once it starts sticking in. But a card that works really well with Pantlaza and a lot of other dinosaurs is Sunfrill Imitator. Whenever it attacks, you may have become a copy of another dino until end of turn. Oh, sorry, not until end of turn. It just becomes a copy, except its name's Sunfrill Imitator and it has this ability. What I like about Sunfrill is you can actually become a copy of Pantlaza, and then if you play your dinosaur after combat, you're getting 2 Discover triggers instead of 1. Or you just turn Sunfrill into something like, a big Gulto or something like that. Sunfrill can be a really great key piece to either turn into another copy of Pantlaza, turn into a copy of something like Ravenous Tyrannosaurus or some of our other big dinosaurs, Galton Mavrian, things like that. There's so many great targets for it, and it just becomes a great piece of stuff, right? And then Trumpeting Carnosaur is great because it's a 6 toughness for 6, but it's going to Discover 5 when it comes in no matter what. And so you're always going to get that Discover 5, but if it's your Discover for the turn with Pantlaza, you're getting a Discover 6 and then a Discover 5. But again, the deck's not just about playing them and ramping to play them, but it's also about trying to blink them or cheat them in. Hunting Veloc Raptor says that dinosaurs we control have cast we spell have Prowl 2 and a red, so if we deal damage to a player this turn, we can cast them for 2 and a red, and that's great because then we can cheat those really big dinos out for even cheaper and get those big Discovers. Savage Order is a copy specifically for dinosaurs of a natural order, a green spell that is very great in its own right. It's just a cost to cast it. We can sack a creature with a power 4 or greater, and then we can search all the way for any dino and put it on the battlefield and it gets trample. Savage Order works the best when you go to get something like Galta, or Apex Altasaur is a great combo to be able to fight the entire board of your opponent's creatures and wipe the way out. Cloud Shift, just pick one creature, exile it, and bring it back in. Best to use Cloud Shift and things like Ephemerate on your opponent's turns, because then you can obviously be able to Discover again, and you can't do it twice on our own turn. And then Ephemerate will actually, at the beginning of our next upkeep, play again, meaning we can pick the right dinosaur and get another Discover. Sneak Attack, who doesn't love Sneak Attack decks? Pay a red, put a creature from our hand on the battlefield, and it gets haste. Great for things like Golta, Stampede Tyrant to put our entire hand down that won't get affected by this, or just get a big dino and get that Discover and give it haste. And then Touch Spirit Realm kind of acts as 2 things. It can either come in and exile something until it leaves, or for 2 mana, we can basically blink a creature. So we exile it out when we channel it, and then it comes back to the next end step. But again, a way to continue blinking our creatures on our opponent's turns. There's plenty more ways to do this. I haven't stuck too much into this because I think there's plenty of ways in the deck to cheat our creatures in or do other things. I didn't talk about it here, but we're also playing things like Defense of the Heart that can cheat some creatures in. But again, at the end of the day, we want to do a little bit of that blinking and cheating it if we can. But as far as getting stuck in goes, we get to play things like Garricks Uprising, one of my favorite things. Creatures get trampled, and we get to draw whenever a creature of power 4 or greater comes in. Dinosaurs on a spaceship can give Vigilance and Trample and plus into our entire board, which can definitely help them hit hard. And then Poetic Ingenuity, every time one or more dinos attack, we create that many treasure tokens, basically allowing us to get extra mana. The thing I love is, unless someone responds to this trigger, we can attack and then net that mana and use it to play a protection spell if somebody tries to board wipe, or, basically use that up to interact with our opponents if need be. Well, as far as recent updates go, I think one card released out of the whole Outlaws of Thunder Junction that we knew needed to go in here, and that was Vaultborn Tyrant. It already having the dinosaur type on the line meant we were going to take a look at it, but I think once you read what it actually does, it makes a ton of sense. A 6 for 7, so it's a little bit off of that rate as far as Pantlaza goes, but it says when it or another creature power 4 greater ETBs, gain 3 life and draw a card. This is great because this is that Garricks Uprising effect, but we get to gain 3 life as well, which is never a bad thing. And then when it dies, we get a copy of it that comes back, so we get it another copy of its trigger, but again, so many of our creatures in their deck, in fact, most, if not all of them, are 4 or greater, meaning that's going to be extra card draw and extra life. Contest of Claws was a card that I wanted to put in at LCI. I just couldn't find a spot for it. But the more I played the deck, the more I realized that Galter, one of those big dinos, is always hanging out. And so why not play a bite that can deal that damage, and then Discover for the X as potentially helping me hit into some of my other enchantments or spells I really love. And then Archdruid's Charm is such a good card. And you have three options. You can search your library for a creature or land, put it to the battlefield, tap if it's a land, otherwise put it in your hand, put a counter on something and it deals damage to its power target creature you don't control, or just exile target artifact or enchantment. Just a great three-way spell. All the three options are good. The first one's great if you need something specific creature-wise, get it into your hand. The second one can be good as another bite effect to try to take something out, get in a big attack. Or just basically, kind of a pseudo copy of something like Beast Within on the third one, or Nature's Claim, that kind of thing. I like that the spell is so well rounded, and I didn't need to put something like Worldly Tutor in there. I think this is just more fun and it gives us more options. But I say it on Mill Zebras all the time, and I'll say it again here. No deck has ever done. In fact, Outlaws of Thunder Junction had a couple really cool cards in it, but there's also a few dinosaurs I have yet to put in the list that I would love to put in. The key one that I have yet to put in is Tyrannix Rex from First LB1. Trample, Toxic 4, Ward 4, Haste is just a great line of abilities. We get to go up one there on the toughness for the mana on the Pantlaza triggers, but at the end of the day, it's just a tough dinosaur to deal with, and it's going to hit hard. The other one that I don't have in there is Throsta from Modern Horizons 2, a big 12/12 can get cheaper for the number of spells we cast. The Discover helps us with that because we're casting more spells, and that's what I've always thought of. But as far as Thunder Junction goes, any joins up on first read might look kind of bad. If a triggered ability with a legendary creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Well, Pantlaza said we can only do its trigger once per turn, so it may make you think, well, this doesn't make any sense. But then you start to realize how many legendary dinos we have in the deck, and how good they are, and you start to realize why any joins up makes a ton of sense. And then Smuggler's Surprise is just an interesting card. For the 2 you can mill for and put 2 creature cards, summon them into your hand. For 6 mana total, you can put up to 2 creatures from your hand on the battlefield, or for 2 mana, all creatures power 4 or greater get Hexproof Indestructible. So for 2 mana, it's basically Heroic Intervention for all your creatures power 4 or greater. 6 mana, you get to put a couple creatures in. I like Smuggler's Surprise a lot. I just have yet to find what specific slot it's going into for the deck yet. And so for my next round of testing, I'm going to be seeing where any joins up, and Smuggler's Surprise can really target pinpoint into the deck. Well, let's get into a playtester too, because playtesting decks is always fun, and it's where we learn so much more. Keeping a 3-lander with an Explorer, so we have a little bit of ramp. Our creatures are Polyraptor, Volporn Hydra, and Galta, so big dinos on the top end. I like the hand. We at minimum have some ramp with Explorer. I think it's worth it. The thing I'll mention is I am playing Kahira as a companion because all the creatures in my deck are dinosaurs. So I can get Kahira at any time to get my creatures vigilance. But let's get in, and we turn 1 draw a Rampant Growth. Well, that's great. We want to ramp, get up to 5 for Pantlaza, so I like it. Turn 2, we will get the Forest down, and we'll play that Rampant Growth, knowing that we have this Clifftop Retreat in our hand. It means we want to go get a mountain or plains, so that we can make sure that that Clifftop Retreat will come in untapped next turn to play the Hulking Raptor. So we'll just go get a mountain, and that'll come in tapped with the Rampant Growth. Here, turn 4, I think we just drop that Clifftop Retreat and get Hulking Raptor down. Now that gives us an extra mana next turn. I doubt that's going to make much of a difference, but hey, we want to start getting in on the board. We could have also conversely explored here, but I kind of like that play a little bit better. We see Soul Ring, that's great. We could ideally 4 mana plus this 5/6 to Hulking Raptor, pay 1, so we'd go up to 7. We could Pantlaza and then Contest of Claws, but at minimum we're just going to Pantlaza. When it comes in, we're going to Discover for 4 for a Generous Gift. If someone has something going to Generous Gift, we can do that. Otherwise, we're just going to put it into our hand. Like I said, we could Contest here, have Hulking Raptor deal something to somebody, but I just don't know that it's worth it this turn. We're at perfect mana to play any 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're at any perfect mana to play any of these guys next turn. And I'd rather just wait for that. I kind of don't see the point of in Contest Clause. I guess we could also explore, get an extra draw, and maybe play an additional land if we hit a land. Maybe that's something we think about, right? Because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we would have enough. So let's just explore before the end hit. And we didn't hit a land, but that's okay. So the next turn, Snarl comes in tapped. Still at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. I like Vaultborn here. And we would have two triggers. We'd have the Pantlaza trigger and then Vaultborn's trigger. I would probably do Pantlaza's trigger first. I always like to just do those triggers first. So let's do it. We would gain 3 life. We would do Pantlaza's trigger first. So we're going to go ahead and discover for 6, getting a hunting Velociraptor. Those go at bottom. And then we draw for Vaultborn Tyrant and gain the 3 life. Cool. So we had 1 mana left, but that's a-okay. We got a big dino down. And now we can swing in for some damage, and next turn we can potentially use that prowl cost to our advantage. We'll go one more turn, have enough for a Tali if that's what we want to do. We also have the Ravenous Tyrannosaurus, we have Polyraptor, we have Galta. A lot of options here. You know, we could Galta and dump the rest of our hand in, but we really don't have the Haste Enabler yet. But this is the point where I would say, okay, where are my opponents at? If my opponents are still building, dump the Atali. I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. I could Atali and Contest of Claws to really get some good value this turn. Same thing. I could Tyrannosaurus and Contest of Claws this turn. Atali would become the biggest creature I have, which would make me kind of want to do that. You know, do that. Do my Discover trigger first, getting a Trumpeting Carnosaur. Carnosaur comes in and discovers 5 for a Cultivate. We would go ahead and do that just to get a... Yeah, we have a good amount of plains down. Let's get a forest. And I guess we'll get plains to hand. Then we would do the Atali trigger, you know, and do that. And I think we're just in good shape from here on out, having a big board and getting ready to smash in. But let's go to one more play test. Here we're keeping a 3-lander with Urza's Incubator. This means we're going to get Pantlaza on turn 4, which is something we'll happily take. Get the forest done for turn. Now, if we can do anything to get it out quicker, we will. Otherwise... no worries. I think I still just want to... I guess we could Cultivate on turn 3. Or we could Kadama's Reach on turn 3, which would get us a similar result. It would be 4th land on board, 5th land in hand. But I like the idea of getting the Incubator down just because it's going to reduce all dinosaurs by 2. Meaning that we're going to get more value over the course of the game. Here I would just play Pantlaza. We have all 3. Discover for 4. Finding a Savage Order. I don't know that I want to play that this turn, especially since I don't really know quite exactly what I'm going to get. We do have to pitch the hand size. Unfortunately, I'll probably pitch that Explorer. Draw for the next turn. So we're still dinos at 2 less. So we can play the Hammer Skull for 1 mana. We can pay Regisaur Alpha for 3 mana. And leave up something like Touch, which makes the most sense. Hammer Skull makes the most sense since it's a 6. So let's do that first. Getting into Sunfurl, perfect. So now we got an extra dino down. 2 mana left. We could try to blink somebody with the Touch the Spirit Realm, maybe on our opponent's turns. What I would probably look to do there is pick an opponent's turn, channel, and just blink the Hammer Skull. Let's say we do that and go for 6 again. Kinjali Sunwing, cool. So now our opponent's creature's coming in tapped. Comes back to us. The retreat comes in untapped. So now we're at 4 mana, -2. For the Incubator, we could Tyrannosaurus. We could Alpha. What I kind of don't mind the idea is if we have a half-decent spot to attack, I'd probably just attack first, have Imitator copy Pantlaza when it attacks, and that way we can do 2 discovers and just dump in something like Regisaur Alpha this turn. Yeah, we'll lose out on some of the haste, but we could do that. Conversely, we could just do the Kadama's Reach this turn and leave up that Swords to Plowshares. Maybe we do that instead. Getting a Forest and another Forest hand. Leaving up that Plowshares on somebody else's turn. Gets back to us. You know, now we're up and big, and Sunfurl would still be a copy of Pantlaza here, so maybe this is the turn where we dump this in for... We dump that in for 4. We still can't play the Savage Order. Because what we could do also is Savage Order like Kinjali Sunwing. Well, it doesn't have 4 or greater. Pug's the only copy with 4 or greater. We could like Savage Order Pugnacious Hammer Skull away for like Galta, and then that would dump Regisaur Alpha. So that actually might not be bad. Use the 4 mana for the Savage Order. Get rid of Pugnacious Hammer Skull. and go get Galta Stampede Tyrant. The reason is because then it's going to put down all the creatures from our hand, right? When it comes in, we would have two triggers, its trigger and then Pantlaza's trigger. We'll do its trigger first, putting Regisaur Alpha and the Tyrannosaurus down and Temple Altasaur down. I guess Tyrannosaurus could probably sacrifice the Sunwing for 3 extra power, right? I think that would make the most sense because Sunwing's probably done its job. Now we're going to have the Galta Discover go off, seeing a hunting Velociraptor. But now all of them have haste, including that token we made with Regisaur Alpha. So we have a 12-12 with haste, a 9-9 with haste that can bonk through something, and Temple Altasaur is going to start protecting our creatures. And again, now we're at a good spot where we just need to find more dinos to play to keep getting the triggers. I actually realized, I apologize, we would have gotten 2 triggers off of Galta because of that Sunfrill, seeing Bone Horde. But again, this is where the value comes from the deck, and we really get to push through. But let me know, what do you think of Pantlaza in general? Is this a precon that you've played with or that you've updated at all? This deck has been a ton of fun to play. It's a deck that makes me love Naya Dinos again. Really makes me enjoy that big stompiness. And I like how much synergy there are between some of the dinos. But let me know what you think down in the comments section below, and I will catch you guys next time.